Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso Virtuo Coffee Machines. Ready to enjoy the bold flavors of barista-quality Nespresso iced coffee at home? Simply fill a glass with ice and press the brew button on your Virtuo Pop machine to enjoy rich double espressos roasted to stand up even when chilled. Refreshingly bold iced coffee. Refreshingly easy to make at home. Visit Nespresso.com to shop now.
I was deep in it, gaming on Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. Unfolding the screen made it twice as big and so immersive, I kinda lost myself. Might have trolled a little too close to the sun. Someone in the chat told me to touch grass, so I took my Z Fold 7 outside and kept playing. Still won, got a tan, and a nice little reset. Powerful processor, realistic graphics, you stay locked in, streak stays alive. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We are so excited to bring you this show.
Our podcast is all about unraveling all of your favorite mysteries from the Assassin's Creed games. Each episode will be talking about a different topic in the Assassin's Creed universe. From Pieces of Eden, Solar Flares, and the Isu, to the Hidden Ones, the Order of Ancients, and of course, the Animus, we will seek to uncover it all.
So join us and maybe even take a leap of faith.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. My name is Shelby. You also know me as She-Cup, and I'm here with my co-host today.
Hey, I'm Austin or Teacup.
That you are, and we are back with another Assassin or Templar. And I know we've been in the Shadows realm for a long time, and we will continue to talk about Shadows since it's releasing today as of the release of this episode. But we're taking a break from Shadows for this week and talking about something totally different.
Yeah, and so like Shadows is releasing, and I know that it is a highly anticipated setting for Assassin's Creed. Like it is, people have been waiting for this for a long time, that it almost feels like we've been waiting for this game for a long time. Kind of like, even though we've had several Assassin's Creed games since we've been theorizing about having this setting or whatnot. So I thought, just like kind of with that anticipation, with that kind of expectation and excitement surrounding that, we should go back to someone from that we do see in the very first Assassin's Creed game, which is Richard the Lionheart, or Richard the First of England.
I am so glad you told me that he appears in Assassin's Creed 1, because I don't remember that.
That's because you didn't finish Assassin's Creed 1.
I did finish it.
Oh, I thought I told you to skip it and go on to...
No, I finished it.
You remember fighting... You meet him twice.
Maybe it's just been a long time because it's been like 3 years since I've played that game. So I probably just forgot.
That's probably true.
All right. Let's get into it then.
All right. So, historical overview, as we do first, always. Again, I'm not talking about all of their accomplishments unless I think there's a particular accomplishment that lends itself to our discussion, Assassin or Templar. So he was King of England during the Third Crusade. A couple notes here. England has historically been a Templar stronghold across the board. Has always been a Templar stronghold for a long time. Some occasional control of England to the Assassins for brief periods of time, but ever since... Alfred of Wessex got rid of the Order of Ancients and established the Knights Templar and the Order of the Templars, they've been in power. So that's the first thing to remember. So he's King of England during the Third Crusade. Now, if you don't know, if you're just a casual history kind of person, you might have heard the Crusades, and that's a time period. So there are 5 Crusades, which are different. The Crusades were efforts to retake the Holy Land, or Jerusalem and that area, it was decreed by the Pope at the time, who basically said, I'm going to anoint a bunch of holy warriors to go and retake the Holy Land in the name of Christianity.
Right. And this is a time period in which everyone in Europe, most white people in Europe, are Catholic. Protestantism doesn't exist yet.
Mm-hmm. And it's also important to note that where Jerusalem sits, this area of the world, is a strategic position for the continent of Eurasia at the time, because it is a quick and easy way to get from Europe to Asia to Russia to all those Middle Eastern countries that have a bunch of spices and other things that people want to trade. It's an important central location that people want to control. So the Pope says this, and all of these rulers are like, yeah, we want to control this. And so the Third Crusade is the one that you are the most familiar with. That is the one with Richard I, Richard Lionheart, the mythology of Robin Hood that takes place during the Third Crusade. Most of the movies that we watch that have to do with the Crusade or any kind of thing around there happen during the Third Crusade. It's the one that most people are familiar with.
Is this crusade the one where the King Richard goes off to fight and then his brother is left in charge of the realm?
Yes, John.
Okay.
And so, yeah, not Little John, but King John is the...
Yeah.
And so Richard, we're going to talk about him. He is the third born of 5 sons. So we're not told how many sisters he has, but he has 5 brothers, and he's the third born.
He has
4 brothers, and he's the third born. Now, if you're doing math, how did he become king? Well, his older brothers died.
Probably in the Crusade.
Yeah. And ergo, bingo bango, Richard is the king. He was a general in the Third Crusade and actually saw its end in its negotiation with Saladin for the peace treaty, which I think is interesting that he's the one who basically negotiates the end of the Third Crusade. Now, don't get too excited because the Fourth Crusade is
right around the corner.
It's just right around the corner. So he never retook Jerusalem for all of his mental prowess, for all of his everything. And that's really the result. They have 5 crusades and none of them are quote unquote really successful.
Right. They do this 5 times. They wreck their economies and, get rid of generations of young men for 5 failures. It's crazy.
5 eventual failures. I mean, they do hold Jerusalem in some of those those crusades, but it's really hard to hold a place as an invading force that far away from where your home is.
Yeah. And when we think about the Roman Empire, Rome could do it, because their whole entire thing was conquering somebody and then like letting them be whoever they wanted to be, not conquering them and making them change into who we want them to be, which is what's happening with the Crusades.
Right. And Rome, typically in a strategy point, they installed people from the community as governors, as regent rulers who knew the people and knew the land, but they made sure that they were going to be loyal to Rome.
Right.
Or
right.
At least afraid enough of Rome that they're not going to do anything. So most of his reign actually was spent away as the Crusades. Like he was coronated, and then like a couple days after this, he leaves with his army for the Third Crusade. So he is barely in England for his reign.
The absent ruler, if you will.
Yes. So this is a funny thing that happens that I actually didn't know off the top of my head, and I didn't even think about. And so that's why I included it, just because I thought it was interesting. So on his day of coronation, Jewish supporters of the king came to court to give gifts to the new king. Now, per English law, Jews were not allowed at court. They're basically taken and flogged by Richard's courtiers, and rumor quickly spread that Richard ordered this act of violence, and Christians, so you would think that in response to this, like that Jews would rise up and riot because of the injustice and violence that was done against them. But instead, rumors fly that the king ordered this, and Christians are like, oh, I guess this means we can go ham and be mad and be terrible, and they start attacking English Jews and burning down homes and doing things like that. Apparently, according to the historical record, Richard was so appalled by these actions done in his name that he distributed a royal writ that basically said, leave the Jews alone.
I mean, I want to say good for him. But also, it's just such an annoying situation.
Yes, it is. And we don't know how. This is why I said apparently and allegedly he felt bad about this, but then he leaves for the crusade, and they can't. How do you enforce the royal writ of a king who's not there?
Right. Well, I mean, I think you can, but I would imagine that this is not necessarily something that's high on the priority list for the royal workers. And
it is noted to say Richard leaves behind England basically in the care of his enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a big deal. And I think that's an important thing, that he leaves and like his people who are not supportive of him are left in charge. And the people very much support him. Like, he is the king. He's the great Christian king, the great ruler, like that. But the people in charge, the princes, the dukes, the nobility, they don't like him.
Because they want to be king. They want to be more in power.
That, and when we talk about it, you'll see another reason. So he leaves, and no one can enforce this writ, and violence continues because the people left in charge don't give two shits about what's happening to the Jews. So we don't know much about Richard's personality because we don't have a lot of things. Like, he doesn't write decrees or things like in his own writing, and we don't have record of his writing
because he's fighting a war.
Fighting a war the whole time. And so like we know what other people have said about him, but we don't really have a lot from him. Like, there are kings like Philip II of Spain. We know a lot about his personality because we have things that he said and he wrote.
Well, and he also ruled for a lot longer than Richard the Lionheart did.
Yes. So he was said to be a valiant, competent military leader, known for his personal military prowess, both as a knight and as a king. And there is a historian whose name I could not pronounce, so I didn't put it in the show notes. But he basically said this was the first time England had ever experienced a king with both these skills, as both a knight and a king. Which I thought was funny.
I look back on the historical record and I'm like, Yeah, you know what? That's probably fair.
I mean, I guess Charlemagne was like a good conqueror, but we don't know how he fared like one-on-one combat. But like, I can see with Robert Baratheon the inspiration that George R.R. Martin took from Richard Lionheart. Like, here's this king that's so good at fighting and so good at, you know, getting the people to like him and root for him, but he's actually a shit ruler.
Right, but this is saying that he's a good king.
Yes.
This is saying that he's known for being a knight and a king, not just that he's bad at ruling or whatever. So that, to me, would be the opposite.
Yeah. But I think more of what it is saying is that he was not... Sometimes people who are good knights are not good commanders. Richard, the Lionheart, was both a good fighter and a good commander. I don't read that as him having good ruling policies. But I mean, it's hard to say because he doesn't really rule.
I mean, he does. We just don't know about it. Like, he does rule over this whole entire army that's fighting the Crusade, even if he's not specifically in England during his rule.
That is true. That is a fair point. He was also, but on the flip side of all of this, with all historical record, it all depends on who's writing about you. Because he's also described to be prone to sins of lust, pride, greed, and cruelty.
Okay, I'm just going to be really honest here for a second. What ruler with absolute power is not prone to the sins of lust, pride, greed, and cruelty?
And this brings me into my next point, which is he upset the church because he taxed them to fund his crusade. And I just want to pause here for a moment and talk about this. First of all, it is not Richard the Lion. To these people, it is not Richard the Lionheart's crusade. It is the Pope's crusade.
Exactly.
And so from a perspective, I can see the argument of the church called for this war. The church should fund it.
I don't disagree with that. Because, like, how are you going to make an entire country fight a religious war for you when you're not going to pay for it? Or at least help pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be one thing if the church, if Catholicism had been like, hey, we're going to do all this, but you guys need to pay for your own food. Like, we'll deck you out in all the gear, but like, you've got to get the food costs. Or like, you guys got to get your own horses, but we've got all the food and we've got all the travel expenses. Mm-hmm. But they're just expected to fight this war on their own dime, and the church is like, please go do this for us. Thanks.
Right. And we've talked about Prince John, Richard's younger brother, before, and how I think that he might get a little bit of an unfair rap when it comes to history sometimes, because he is the one who imposes all of these taxes, and he is the one who like really taxes the poor and all of that stuff, and the people of England almost into like making everyone poor. But on the flip side, his brother has gone off to fight this crusade, and the church has said, you've got to fund it, and he's got to figure out a way. He's got to figure out a way, and most rulers' way of funding their empire and their wars are to tax the people.
Right. I mean, and here's the thing about it. Wars are expensive. Mm-hmm. They are very expensive, especially when you have something like a crusade that's basically a world war where you're involving several different countries.
Mm-hmm. And you've got to send supply. Not only do you have to gather food, weapons, rations, and water, and all of these kind of stuff, you've got to send it from England to Jerusalem, which...
That's not a short distance.
You got two options. You can send it on a boat through France and then down and go that way, or you can go above land through Germany and come that way, or you can go across the Mediterranean, none of which are safe and easy routes to get there.
Right. And like even when France and England go to war, that's still not easy because you've still got to cross the channel, right? So like no matter what, no matter who England goes to war with, they're going to have more costs than they would otherwise because they've got to get their supplies and their soldiers off the island. Mm-hmm. So this war, these wars, all wars, but especially these, they take a lot of capital. And I didn't even think about this. Not only do you have to send supplies for all your men to be decked out with, but you've got to get food for the journey and the military supplies you'll need when you're there.
Because you can take from the people you conquered.
Absolutely. But that's not a guarantee.
Mm-hmm. And it comes down to the point of, you also have to think, like, England also has lost probably most of its labor force. And so the ones that are left are those who are too young to fight or too old to fight.
Right.
Or unable to fight.
Right.
And women, obviously.
Yeah, it's not a good situation for the country, essentially.
Right. And so I get the way that John is like, well, I've got to do something. And he's basically just like, well, we have to tax and we've got to fund this war. The problem is it's unclear whether John, in the Robin Hood like myth, John is like lining his own pockets with the taxes. I don't actually know if that was the case, given on how expensive I know wars are.
Yeah, but also given how we know rulers are, I wouldn't be surprised.
Right. That's also a fair point. He was also interested in poetry and music and actually wrote 2 poems himself. So I thought that
Richard did.
Richard did, yeah. According to the AC Wiki, and I know I normally do this in the second half, but I just thought this was really interesting. And it speaks to maybe his personality. Richard was fatalistic and contemptuous of the nature of humanity and believed that mankind, or humankind, could never change its propensity for violence, and in his mind, the only way for them to bring peace was for his men to crush their enemies, Saladin and the Saracens. I just want us to sit with that and think about that description of them on whose allegiance this man would be with. Lastly, this is again just speculation in the historical record. There are speculations on his sexuality and whether he was he was homosexual or some member of the alphabet. Just in that, a lot of references is that his wife, they never have an heir, which is why John becomes king.
Okay, but like he's gone the whole time. So
exactly.
That's not an argument to me.
Exactly. But there's also other things that people speculate. Historians go back and forth. There's also this is a trigger warning for sexual assault. There are records of him taking women by force, basically. And so that's it. Modern historians land kind of in the thing of he probably had relations with men and women.
I don't know. There are just so many stories of men in power who do this. I don't know. I have a really hard time applying, any modern term that we have, whether it be gay, lesbian, queer, whatever. I have a hard time applying that to historical people who wouldn't necessarily understand it as an identity.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And is Richard, if he did do these things, because again, it's all alleged. It's not verified, because it's so long ago, we don't have someone who can say,
yes, this happened.
Yes, this happened.
Right. We're talking 1,000 years ago.
Right. Is it that Richard was actually attracted to men, or he just liked wielding power over them?
A great question. I don't know if we're going to get the answer to it, but it seems like now might be a good time to go to our mid-break.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Alien Earth, the official podcast. Each week, host Adam Rogers is joined by guests, including the show's creator, cast, and crew, in this exclusive companion podcast. They will explore story elements, deep dive into character motivations, and offer an episode-by-episode behind-the-scenes breakdown of each terrifying chapter in this new series. Search FX's Alien Earth wherever you listen to podcasts.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Lowe's knows to bring your vision to life, it's important to find the right color. That's why MyLowe's Rewards members get a free Valspar paint or exterior stain sample to test your look to confidently refresh your space. Offer valid in-store only 8/7 to 8/20. Limit 1 per customer while supplies last. Discount taken in time of purchase. See associate for details. Rewards program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Ma cos'è? Shoot! Shoot a flying demon!
Quite a carriage you got there. Where did you buy it, if you don't mind me asking?
Ask all you want, Freddy. You'll never get an answer.
Damn it all. Was it my eyebrows?
Yes, and your face, voice, and body.
What have you done? We used them. They were not ready for firing. You could have gotten us all killed. Let me see. His breath is more fatal than our cannons. Only when you two fools are shooting them. There, try it.
All right, welcome to the middle of the show. This is where we take the time to talk about all the things that have to do with the Assassin's Creed lorecast and not the lore of Assassin's Creed. So the first thing that I have to talk about is a big thank you to all of our patrons. Thank you all so much for joining us and supporting us in this way. We greatly appreciate it, and you help us truly keep making the podcast. I do have a new patron to shout out today, and that's Hannah L. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you're listening and would like to join the Patreon, you can do so at patreon.com/Assassin's Creed Lorecast or /AC Lorecast. Now, another way you can support us if you can't support us financially is to leave us a rating or a review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you do leave us one on a podcatcher that's not Apple or Spotify, you may have to send that to us, but we will read it out on a future episode of the show. I think we are all caught up today, so if you leave us one this week, you'll get read out on the next episode. Now, I know we also have a Discord server. It's the best place on the internet. We love it so much. You hear us talk about it all the time, but I want to spend a few minutes today, since today is the release day of Shadows. And I just want to give some shout outs. You know, I know some anticipation for Austin and I. We are recording this episode 1 week before. So I want to give you any opportunity to kind of share anything you're excited about, looking forward to, etc.
I am really excited for two protagonists that might actually feel different. I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited for the historical story that they're going to tell and kind of anticipating that. I'm really excited to see what role, if any, the Isu are going to play in this. Because they've been kind of absent from promotional material.
They have. That's true. I am really excited for a story that seems to be focused more on assassins and Templars than Isu. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited also for exploration just because the world looks amazing.
Yes, I'm so excited for that as well. I'm also really excited for just the setting in general. It's really anticipated, and this era of Japan is actually one of my favorites, the Sengoku period, just because it's a lot of... I think it's a point in Japanese history where Japan really becomes Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And finds kind of their identity in this period of time. And it's an important one for their history, and I'm excited and hopeful to see how Ubisoft pays respect to this culture that I think that a lot of Americans assume that they understand, but don't.
I think that's a good point. Yeah, because, and I mean, I truly think, I can't imagine that Ubisoft hasn't done research into what is respectful and appropriate about the culture. Like, they have to do research into the cultural setting, and I think as Americans, like, we have the tendency to assume we know things about other places just because we've watched Shogun or we've, read whatever book that's set in this period, but I think we need to go into it without those assumptions that we already know everything. So I'm going into it with an open mind, and I'm just excited to experience a new Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, I'm really, really, really excited for all of you who are playing it today. I hope it's everything that you wanted it to be.
Same here. All right, well, let's get back into the lore.
This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Malaka. But that madman, the self-proclaimed Bishop of the Ruins, is our biggest critic. He calls our playing the devil's bagpipes.
I will sleep with anyone as long as they agree to be executed in the morning.
Like Xantivis.
He was well satisfied with his bargain. Who is this toothsome fellow?
My queen, this is,
Well?
It is a generous offer, but I've already pledged my life to this woman.
Aya, you have chosen well.
All right, so let's talk about Assassin's Creed involvement before we kind of jump into Assassin versus Templar, because I really think that we're going to have some interesting thoughts about this one. And so Richard I is one of the first historical characters we ever meet in Assassin's Creed universe. He makes a brief appearance in the middle and the end of Assassin's Creed 1. You see him basically reprimanding a knight who is in charge of Acre, and he's mad at him because he's not meeting, and he runs away. And then you meet him again at the end when you go to try to warn him that the main villain is trying to take his life. He serves his historical role as general of the army, and we don't get much interaction with him, but we do see him very in. He is very religious, so much that when Altair comes to warn him of Robert de Saul's when he comes to warn him of his attack, he basically says, "I don't believe you. This could just be another another Muslim plot to distract me or do something like that. We're going to let God decide. So you're going to fight Robert, and whoever comes out victorious is the one that God has ordained to be truthful," which is like such a chaotic way to...
Like, yeah, let's just leave this up to fate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, buddy.
We're never really told of his allegiance, but he's not outright hostile to Altair. He seems to know about the Order of Assassins a little bit. And when it is through Altair's conversations with him that he actually makes it a point to... Altair basically takes a moment of privilege to ask Richard to sue for peace. That he needs to stop fighting Saladin and the Saracens, and this war needs to end, and he needs to sue for peace. And Richard does it. Later, he does it. He sues for peace with Saladin to go home, to end this war and everything like that. It is also worth noting in this that in AC universe, his brother John, John the First, is manipulated by the Templars. He is manipulated to do what he does as king and as prince in Regency to tax the people. And then later, his big thing that he does is he refuses to sign the Magna Carta.
Mm-hmm.
And that causes the First Baron War, which causes a bunch of nobles to rise up against him.
Just a bad time all around.
Yes. And so that's really it of Richard the First, Assassin or Templar.
I feel like I say this every episode, but I could really see him playing both sides. Because I do think his whole belief system that, you know, the world, the nature of humanity can never be changed and turned away from violence. Like, that's very Templar. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Let me look around at 2025 and I can kind of see that. I get where you're coming from, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Not much has changed on that front in 1,000 years, you know?
Yeah.
So on that level, I get it. But then also, why, if he was a Templar, why would he appear to Altair?
Exactly. Unless he's trying to manipulate stuff going on. And maybe he wants to sue for peace because unrest in England is getting so bad under John that he thinks the assassins are going to take over.
That's fair.
But I think from another point of like I could see him being a Templar. But what I picture with the little we know about Richard I, I truly believe that one of his primary motivating virtues is honor.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see the Templars kind of manipulating him in such a way of like, no one is honorable. These assassins aren't honorable. These people, like, they just want to kill us because they want chaos. There's no honor among them, everything like that, manipulating him that. But when he is confronted with someone like Altair, who by the end is a very honorable man, like, who comes at a risk to his own life and doesn't ask him to, you know, surrender, doesn't take the moment to enact violence for, you know, Altair probably personally is on the side of Saladin and the Saracens. Like, he wants those people to win out in the crusade, probably personally, but he sets aside that and says in this moment, like, we need peace. Like, you don't need to lose, but neither do we. We don't need peace. And that sense of honor, I could see challenging Richard's worldview and causing him to question the Templars who have told him all of this.
I definitely think that's fair. I think when you are in a war, at some point when it goes on for a long time, you start to lose your principles a little bit. Because you have to. The horrors of war will chip away at your principles and your character.
Yes.
The longer it goes on.
And I think part of that is just instinctual to the point of your instinct to survive will almost always win out.
Yes.
And that's biological. That's something that we can't control. Like, most people, with like the exception of parents and their children, are going to prioritize their own survival over anyone else.
Right. Absolutely.
It's just natural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's probably where we're at with this character, this person, because I don't necessarily feel like, I don't know. I know we have a tendency in this series and just in the Assassin's Creed fandom in general to say like, oh, well, the people on this side of the war are assassins and the people on this side of the war are Templars. But I think we've seen time and time again, more often, that assassins and Templars have infiltrated both sides.
Mm-hmm.
So I can very much see younger brother John being allied with the Templars, older brother Richard saying, no, I don't think so. These guys seem off to me. And then not necessarily aligning with the assassins either as allies.
Right. And it really comes down to like a difference in the Templars and assassins are really two sides of the same coin, because I think Al-Mualim, even though he's a traitor and a Templar himself, he summarizes it in a way. He says, the Templars want the same thing we do, which is peace in the world. And to this day, I think that both of them, they want an end to conflict. They just have vastly different methodologies to get to that conflict. And one I think is just, and one I think is not very just. But it's very easy to spin the assassins as bloodthirsty murderers.
Absolutely. But also at the same time, you know, if you or I were, it would be very difficult for us to infiltrate some other religion that we're not a part of, or some other organization that we're not a part of, and rise up to the highest rank. But Al-Mualim seems to do it pretty easily. Mm-hmm. You can't just do that unless A, you're a sociopath, which, like, to be fair, he might be. But also, like, you can't do that unless you at least have something in common with the people you're infiltrating.
Mm-hmm. And I think it comes down to a point of, like, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who is a theologian and resistance fighter in Nazi Germany. For those of you who don't know, he says when the greater good is so challenged that the only logical response is violence, then violence must be the answer.
Yeah.
And I take issue with a lot of that, and sometimes, but when you're faced with an insurmountable evil such as Nazi Germany, I mean, I can't make a decision because, as bad as things are, I don't think I've ever been faced with an evil as surmountable as what was happening in 1930s, 40s Nazi Germany.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so, but I think that's very similar to the assassins. And Altair has one of my favorite quotes where he says, you know, when I see a slave in market or a man beating a servant or doing that, I don't think about the moral principles. I don't think about any of that. I think only of that man needs to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it is a sense of justice in that point. And I think we can argue what is just in there. And I think that's where Richard, I think, would come to the point with the assassins of, like, if the assassins could convince him that, no, we are fighting for what's honorable and what's just, I think he would go over to them.
I agree with you. And I don't necessarily think the Templars can make that argument.
No, I don't, because they're liars, and people who value honor hate people who lie to them.
But also people who value honor, like Richard, they see through the bullshit more easily, truthfully. And I just feel like the Templars in this era specifically, but in all eras, but the Middle Ages especially, they're very easy to see through. Mm-hmm. Like, it's almost like a sheet waving in the wind. Like, you can see everything that's standing behind it.
Right. Like, it doesn't take long after Alfred is gone for, like,
everything to fall apart.
For, like, his sense of, because I would say Alfred of Wessex, even in Assassin's Creed universe. Now, I am biased. I love Alfred in The Last Kingdom. He's one of my favorite characters, but he is a sense of a man of honor. He values that.
And I think he is in Assassin's Creed too.
Mm-hmm. And that is the point of, like, he cannot live with what the Order of Ancients has become. And so he destroys it.
Well,
and
he works with Eivor and the assassins to do it. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I just think that's interesting. Again, I think that he might start out as a Templar, but I think he is an easy target as a convert.
Yeah. Yeah, fair. Well, that sounds like this episode is a wrap. So unless you have anything else to plug or shout out.
No, I think that's it for me.
All right. Well, thank you, Austin, for doing the research as always. And I hope all of you who are listening out there and who get to play Shadows today are enjoying it and having the time of your lives. And thank you all so much for listening to this episode. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at AC Lorecast.
If you have any lore questions or topics to unpack, join our Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's the best place on the internet. You can also support us financially through our Patreon. Find us on patreon.com/Assassin's Creed Lorecast. The Assassin's Creed Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Network. For more information about the Robots Radio Network, join the Discord server via the link in our episode's description.
If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, and join the Patreon. And if you enjoyed our intro and outro music, make sure you give a big thank you to Pipeman Studios. Thank you, Pipeman. Thanks again for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. And always remember, Assassins, stay in the shadows to serve the light.
Want to live better? We got a lot of work to do. Join Chris Hemsworth in National Geographic's new Disney Plus original series, Limitless. Live Better Now.
I'm diving headfirst into cutting-edge science to uncover 3 powerful secrets to living better right now. The growth that occurs through any challenging experience is really what we seek.
Chris Hemsworth stars in Limitless. Live Better Now. Now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
It's showtime.
Are you a fan of Elden Ring? Are you confused about the lore as pretty much everyone else? We've got you covered. Check out the Elden Archives, a lore podcast that helps to explain every little confusing detail about the lands between. Things like what exactly happened on the Night of the Black Knives, or what we really know about characters like Mikola. Just like the show you're listening to now, we're on the Robots Radio Network, so you know it'll be good. Wondering how to find the show? Easy. Either go to robotsradio.net or search Elden Archives on whatever podcatcher you're using right now. Bookmark the show for later, and we'll see you in the lands between. Again, that's The Elden Archives, a FromSoft Lorecast, available everywhere.